This has not happened to us
Are we
before.
on?
It's happened to me as a
All right,
litigant.
all right,
My
so I just
apologies.
want to point out, I do have the transcript where the Yennecads agreed to a deed restriction, not just, oh, yeah, we won't build on it.
Okay, no, that's the point I'm making. In their minds, I'm suggesting that they have no intention of building. That's fine, and I'm not questioning that. However, when a lawyer hears that, and the lawyer should say to a client, all right, you may not be intending to build,
Not less than 10 feet.
but that's, your lack of intent to build is a far cry from having a deed restriction that legally prevents you from building. Maybe the next owner wants to build. So having a deed restriction that runs with the land, what I'm suggesting is the board shouldn't put too much emphasis on what a lay person says when they say, I don't plan to build. So you'll take a deed restriction? Yeah, they don't understand.
Well, no,
this.
Mr. Kaplan actually presented it to them as a deed restriction. It wasn't, they were represented by counsel, by Mr. Kaplan. So you're saying that they should have had advice from an attorney, but they did.
Well, what I'm saying then is if Mr. Kaplan spoke with them here, and if that arose that night, there certainly wasn't much time to reflect on it. That's number one. Number two, even if Mr. Kaplan, and I wasn't here, so I take what you're saying, Mr. Kaplan counseled them and they said yes. I'm saying that the board hasn't voted on this yet, and I'm giving you what I think are cogent reasons why it doesn't, there's no principled reason or need to impose it, simply because the property is flipping from this owner to this owner. Whatever development might have occurred or might occur in the future by this owner, this is still worth subject to that. So what's the difference that it's a new owner now? And the fact that the purchaser may not be intended to do anything, having a deed restriction run with the land in perpetuity, I would suggest to you the law really doesn't favor tying up property to that extent. And in this case, there's really no need for it. Nobody who owns property wants anybody in the adjoining property to do anything with the property. We all want the adjoining property to be left unimproved, but that's not reality. We're in a suburban environment, and it's not reality when someone comes and says, I don't want them building. Now, first of all, we're talking about 40 by 50 feet. We can't put up a big office building on 40 by 50 feet. So what are we really talking about? Possibly some,
Cabana?
huh?
A cabana?
Maybe, sure.
Yeah.
But if it's done as of right, according to Muncie Park setbacks and zoning code, then what's the harm to the Dilworth property if the current owner, if the water authority could have put up a cabana? There's no principal difference.
I think that's where I would be curious, because I'm not sure in the prior meeting whether we really got the right answer, but what would be as of right as the property currently stands, and what would be as of right after the transfer?
Sure.
Is it the same? Is
Well,
it different?
My understanding is that this property in Muncie Park is in a Residence B district. The Dilworth property is in a Residence R1 district. So right there, even though we have different villages, you can see going from a B in one district to R1, in your R1, you have 1 acre zoning. We don't have that in Residence B in Muncie Park. I'm not sure what it is. However, but to answer your question directly, they're subject to the 9-foot side yard setback and the 20-foot rear yard setback in Muncie Park. So once the property is transferred, it's subject still to the same zoning, Muncie Park zoning requirements that it's subject to today.
Were the Yennecads granted a variance for the 8.5-foot setback that currently exists?
I'm not sure, but if they weren't, then it's a non-conforming use.
Would they be required to seek a variance?
No, not if it's a prior non-conforming existing, because some properties are, let's say some property is 7 feet from a property line, and then a zoning code comes in, it says 10 feet. Your grandfather is.
Yes, but here they're adding more property to their lot, so wouldn't that be almost as if they're reopening their zoning?
No, I don't believe it,
Yeah, I question that.
If it is, if they're adding property, they still can't do anything unless it's as of right or they got a variance for Muncie Park. But again, we're talking about 40 by
Okay, but hypothetically, if they were ever to put anything in this little, area that that's being conveyed to them, they would have to go back and also legalize that side yard variance, wouldn't they?
Perhaps. I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that question, because now you're talking about a situation where most zoning codes say that you can't exacerbate a grandfathered status. I can't answer the question in the hypothetical because I don't know if what they would propose would be considered an exacerbation of an existing grandfather
Right.
situation. But what I do know is that the transfer of ownership is not going to change the zoning requirements that exist today. It's going to be the same ones. That's really the point.
That property now is zoned, the one in transfer, is it zoned residential?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so. I'm told that it's
Well, it's res
Well-
B.
it's
Well-
residential.
It's not clear because if it's currently owned by the water district, what is that property
I'm
zoned as?
I don't want to misspeak, but I believe that it's also.
I already asked this question last time too,
I think
and
it's
I
the-
realized you're a different guy.
Well, the water district property is in what village?
Muncie Park,
The entire,
I believe so.
Property.
No, it's split.
is it split?
Part of it is in Flower Hill.
No, well,
No.
yeah,
Just the
the
entrance.
driveway
Just the
portion
driveway.
Entrance.
on Dogwood
Dogwood.
is Flower Hill.
Okay, so then it sounds like the bulk of it
And-
is Muncie
Yeah.
Park. So if that's the case, then the bulk of it would be, I presume, in the Residence B district. Because I believe that in Taylor, the water company puts a tower in a residential neighborhood as they do. It doesn't change that little parcel.
It could be zoned as public use
Municipal
rather than
use.
as.
Okay, and if it is, then it really doesn't change the analysis on offering here.
No, I think what I'm trying to get at is when the property, if it is zoned differently than Residence B, does it flip to Residence B when it's
Right.
when it's
There's
annexed to
also a
this?
change of zone application.
Wait, does it,
before the
if
park board.
if that property is res B and this joins
would
that property,
suspect
it becomes res B?
That we wouldn't be here without an application to Muncie Park to change zone. We can't take property in non-residential and turn it into residential. So inferentially, I'm gonna suggest,
You could, you just would be stuck with that.
no, but we have to make an application for a change of zone.
obviously.
It's interesting.
And my understanding is there's been no application and no need for a change of zone. So I suspect that this is all residential, that the Muncie Park property of the purchaser and the water authority, I suspect strongly that it's all residential B within Muncie Park.
I have a question. So you guys are looking to unload this piece of property to the neighbor, basically, right?
Right. Well, the neighbor, because the neighbors.
Why do you care about what happens there later? Why is the water district concerned about potential development?
The answer is because we're really doing this as a joint application. So while I'm here as an attorney for the water district, I'm also representing the interests of the purchaser. That's really why. I'm really representing the interest of this property owner.
So you represent the owner of that property?
For this very limited purpose, yes.
It's just curious
Just
that
like the
all of the
attorney
other
said.
properties that adjoin the water district in Muncie Park were granted an easement, and that this is not being granted an easement, but you're actually conveying the property, and I'm not understanding the difference.
I think because it required fewer administrative steps, that's my understanding, that the water authority really doesn't need this property. The property owner wanted it. Its play set, if you can see half of its play set is over there, its gravel parking is over there, and its driveway runs through that area. So he has a justified desire to have it. If we do something other than a sale, my understanding was it creates more administrative issues. It's just easier to sell it to him. You know what? It's really a choice that has no hidden agenda behind it, because it doesn't, in the end, it doesn't change anything. You're talking now about form over substance. So what I would suggest to you is don't put too much into why you're selling it. Manhasset Label doesn't need it, and he could use it. So we're selling it to him. It's really that simple. It's really that simple.
So,
And in doing that, Mrs. Dilworth's interests are not being enhanced, reduced, her risks. There's no change in hers because it's owned now by the water district.
so it's in the water district's best interest to move this process along quickly. You have property you want to sell, they have property they want to buy.
I think that's a
So
fair
why would you now throw a wrench into this we had kind of an agreement last
Yeah.
month. The owner was like, fine, Mrs. Dilworth was going to get, protection of something we built there. And now a month later,
I'll tell you why.
yeah.
I'll tell you why. Okay. Coming here tonight was my understanding that there was no potential restriction. So when I spoke to Mr. Blinkoff, that was the first time I heard it. Now, of course, I'm only involved in this matter for the past 8 hours. Okay. To answer your question, because as a lawyer that's here partly to represent the interests of the purchaser, I feel responsible when I hear that there's going to be a deed restriction as a lawyer. Bells and whistles go off in my head because a deed restriction is in perpetuity. I feel responsible to speak up. Now, maybe my predecessor, who I have 20 or 22 years on him, he may not have realized it, frankly. And he might have turned to the clients of deed restriction, who cares, I'm not going to do anything anyway. But that deed restriction stays with the property when they sell it. And that's why I know that. And they may not have given that enough consideration last time. So as a lawyer trying to be responsible to an interest that I represent, I have to speak up and say, wait a second, why is there a deed restriction? There's no principled reason or need for it, other than a neighbor who, like all neighbors, says, I don't want anything going up on the next property. We hear that all the time. Not in my backyard. We hear it all the time. But is it legitimate and is it necessary? And the answer is no. So the fact that there was this discussion last time and this ostensible agreement, I'm asking you to push that aside and look at the substance of this. And the fact that I don't think they were properly consulted last time.
So what's the homeowner's opinion on this?
The homeowner's opinion is to have the most advantageous situation.
So have you spoken to
No,
the homeowner?
Mr. Kluski is here on behalf of the homeowner. And I believe that his position is really what I'm telling you, and that's what the homeowner's position is. If I sat down with the homeowner and I explained to them, do you know what a deed restriction is? Not really. Do you understand that it's in perpetuity?
Oh, they knew what a deed restriction was.
All right, if that's, they might know, I don't know. I know.
You made it clear that you would not be able to do anything on that piece of property
But was
ever.
it clear that if you go to sell the property in 100 years from now, what I'm suggesting, they don't think like that. They're not thinking down the road. They say to themselves, that's okay, I'm not intending to. But then to say, okay, but you understand, things like deed restrictions affect marketability and value. I'm sure that no one explained that to them. And that's the reality, is that deed restrictions in perpetuity can affect usability down the road. So the fact that they don't plan to do anything with it, I don't want to bind future property owners unless.
You're kind of arguing with yourself though, because on the one hand, you're saying, oh, it's such a small piece of property, and then you're saying, oh, but deed restriction would be
Because I
so
don't
onerous.
Because I don't know what a future owner would do. I'm suggesting probably not a lot, it's 40 by 50, but I'm arguing against a deed restriction, which in and of itself has an onerous component to it. Because there's no need for it other than a homeowner saying, I don't want to want anything in that area. Is she entitled to have that imposed? You're entitled to impose it, but does she need it? And is she really entitled to it? Is there any reason for it?
Well, she bought the property that was backing on, this big open water district property,
Right,
with
which
the
means,
assumption that it would always remain, public.
how did she
use
know
property.
that? But how did she know that? How did she know?
Well,
when
how does
she bought-
anybody know anything?
Right, so how did she know when she bought that property? She didn't know, for all she knew, that property in total could have been sold to a developer. She didn't know. And it would be subject to construction as of right. So there's no reliance factor on Mrs. Dilworth's part. There's no reliance factor. All we're doing is taking the property from the right hand and giving it to the left hand. And we're saying, well, we have to put a deed restriction in because the homeowner wants it. Well, why is the homeowner entitled to it just because we're transferring ownership? That's the only thing that's changing.
Let's just go back to one other issue, I'm sorry, we're going back to the zoning. So currently, the Yennikad's house is in what zoning district?
B.
B. And the portion of property that you're being conveyed is owned as,
I believe it's B also.
it is B also.
Well, you sure?
an
Are you
assumption.
not sure?
I'd like to
It's
clarify.
B.
if possible.
I'm pretty sure.
You're pretty sure you're positive?
No, I'm not positive. I believe
So,
it's B.
so then why don't we
Because
get,
if it requires a change of zone.
why don't we
I
get
think
those
need to
answers?
further
Zoning,
discuss.
pull up the zoning.
why don't we get those answers for next
Yeah,
meeting?
I think so.
I think we should just adjourn this.
Yeah.
It sounds
Okay.
like we don't have all the
Okay, my
answers.
partner, Mr. Kleska, is that my partner's email today, my partner Chris Pryor, who's been on this 2 years, says it is B. It is B. So I'm
It is
representing.
B, so it's owned residential.
Well, if it's B, then I don't see.
What do you want to
There's
say
no
here?
reason. I think it was the substance of whatever covenant, deed restriction, whatever you want to call it, that was at play here. I wasn't sure, I think what agreements have been made between the water district and other adjoining property owners was that, they were allowed to use the property as they have been using it, kind of thing. And I'm sure there's a bunch of indemnifications in it and whatever. So I think that was sort of kind of the order of what was anticipated as an agreement. Having said that, I'm happy enough to not be so careful about this. And I mean, if it's going to be in residential B, I think then it's kind of like that's, you have the same restrictions that you would anticipate abutting any residence
Right.
property.
Well, also, Mr. Liquid, it occurred to me, once you have what you were talking about, permissive use, will give you an easement. Now you have insurance and indemnity provisions. So you get into things that we don't have to get into if we simply flip the property by deed.
They don't have it online.
Of course.
I hate villages do that.
Can I say something?
I mean, can we make a decision subject to?
Can I say something?
Wait, let Mr. Lewandowski finish his statement.
No, I was just saying, can we make a
Our attorney just
decision
has
on
a
what am I trying to say? On the basis that it is, will not change in use and that it is currently zoned as residential B.
You can.
So that would be one way of moving forward. Just say,
No, can we just wait until the mayor has your attention?
What would this setback be?
because that would be considered a side.
This is considered side? This is side, this is rear. Is this side?
Yeah, that's true. If I can
Because if this is front, then. you
point
can't
was
do
just
anything.
made, remember that?
Could you just wait till we have the mayor's attention? Thank you.
Sure.
So this is definitely.
This is the side setback,
All right.
This
we
is
can-
the rear
we can do
setback.
that.
right?
I just wanted to say, remember that as you know, Muncie Park is
You should-
joined us, so
you
there's
should
no issue about zoning districts. Muncie Park approved it. If there was an issue about zoning districts, if there was an impediment to that, they couldn't have just approved this without a zoning change.
Thank you.
Okay, give your name and address, please.
My name is Irene Dilworth. I'm the present owner of the adjoining property. My address is 325 Manhasset Woods Road. When I bought this property 25 years ago, I knew that I was buying it right next to a water tower. I knew that. And the piece of property that adjoins next to the water tower, where Gauze used to be, is not fenced, and there is garbage on my property, out of their house, on my property, since it is not fenced. And they're already using my property. The people that got the easements had been using the property. It didn't cost them 1 penny to get the easements. They can still use the property and everything, but they were tied hook, line, and sinker with all kinds of laws and reasoning why they had to take an easement when they wanted to buy the property. But for some strange reason, and some $60,000, Mr. Yanosek wants this property just to lay there. Why? Just to lay there so he has it? What's he gonna do with it? You've gotta have something to do with property if you can throw out $60,000 to the water district. I'm sure they're making plenty of money on my lawn alone with the water that I use. But I don't think that it's fair to make me shake in my boots because I don't know what they're going to do with the water district that's close to my property, and why my property should still extend over there so that maybe they want to offer me money. I might want to sell that since they're using it anyway. So you might talk to your clients. But that's kind of a sneaky way to do things. And I think it's kind of a costly thing to do. For property, you have no intent. And I believe they have other intentions, which I'm not being told to you honestly and fairly. He just got this 8 hours ago, and look at the booklet he's got full of information in 8 hours. Granted, he's a lawyer, and he doesn't look at the future, but I look at the future too. I have my property nicely blocked off, and I intend to keep it in order, but I was back there the other day, and I looked at it and I thought, who the hell is cutting the bushes over here between my property and the water district property? There's a whole bunch of bushes pushed down over there and laying next to the fence of the water district. That's not even on his side where the blocks are indicating where my property ends. There's no division there. I haven't been offered anything so that he could extend this property, but maybe $60,000 is enough for what he wants to do. But I've had enough of this thing. He's dragging it out, and he's dragging lawyers, and I could get a lawyer too, but I'm not going to. I'm living here in Flower Hill. I expect Flower Hill to protect me and to protect Flower Hill and any future owners that might come. I'm not thinking of what the water district might do 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now. That's stupid. That's dealing with pies in the sky. And I shouldn't worry about that. I'm not worried about it because I bought property with the water district right there. I hope I've made my point.
Thank you, Mrs. Dillon.
Thank you.
If I can just correct something factually, I'm told that none of the others asked to buy.
I'm sorry?
I'm told that none of the others, Ms. Dillard was talking about other people who were involved with the water district or using part of their property. I'm told that those people didn't ask to buy. She was suggesting that, well, these other people asked to buy and the water district said, no, we're not gonna sell it to you. But for some reason, that they're selling to this adjoining property. And I'm told that, no, the others didn't ask to buy. This is the first time. I'm not sure it's
That's something that
terribly.
we don't know, and
I
that, you know,
don't think
we
it's
don't know that.
terribly relevant. I just want to
Yeah, okay.
correct it. I
So-
think, I've made my point.
All right.
Ms. Dillon wanted to say something.
I was
You,
just
you can
gonna say-
speak, but I'm going to make a motion to adjourn this till next month. If you want to make something for the
No,
record, but if you want to
it's
wait till
fine.
next month, then
No,
that's
it's fine.
just probably more relevant. Save it.
It's fine.
So I'm going to make a motion to adjourn this next month because it seems there's still a lot of questions going on for this.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Mr.
Trustee
Janine.
Okay, so, we're adjourning this to
It's just
September,
that everyone agrees? Well, saying aye? Yes,
September 12th.
yes.
Subject to what additional information, does that go on the record, like what do they need to come back with, or from both sides? So that we have more information, so it's not a rehash of today.
I
Is
was
there gonna be
gonna
more
ask that also.
information?
Do you
That's all.
expect anything more from the applicant? Because we obviously want to be prepared. Kind of made my argument.
So,
Let Jeff weigh in.
What I was gonna suggest, council, is we had the chance to speak after, and perhaps after the call on the calendar, I'll give you my telephone number, you reach out to me. I know you know, our Dr. Steve will talk, and then perhaps I can also reach out to the bill list so that when we come back next month, each side could present to the board additional information to specify where everybody is, so that there's not, I think the word was rehash, there wouldn't be a rehash.
Because we all assumed that there was going to be the agreement on the restriction on the deed, and now it's all different. So
Understood.
I didn't have time to think of anything else, and I think no one else on the board
Sure,
did.
understood.
It's
Okay,
kind of
I
just
thank
surprised
you
us.
for your time. I know you didn't intend to spend this much.
No.
So thank you.
Okay, just all in favor by show of hands, please.
Um,
Yeah, okay, so if the board is unanimous, adjourning to September 12th, 7:30 PM.
Gentlemen.
If I could make a suggestion, it might help, because if you're looking to see perhaps what could be done as of right under the Muncie Park zoning, that perhaps you could, on the site plan, show what the setbacks are, what the building
That would be
envelope would be, including maybe even a, the floor area calculation to know if they can build any more on the floor area, because, like here, accessory buildings get added to gross floor area. So it might be helpful to the board to see
Yeah.
where that stands.
Yeah, they could expand the house because they now have more lot area, yeah.
Well,
Right, because the thought is that they would, now that they own the two lots, they could combine the lots.
So we would need what the
Expand the house.
FAR is for that piece of property.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. We'll see.
And do, dash line where the building envelope would be for the entire project.
Okay.
I think that would be helpful.
Thank you, Peter, for that.
When's the next meeting, September?
September 12th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We ready to go to the next one,
Okay.
Ron?
Sure, okay.
Next local law is local law J. We're going to amend the landmark commission primarily to change the makeup of the board to be 3 members instead of 5, and to reduce the terms down to 1-year terms. This is our second public hearing on this. I don't know if any board members have any questions on this. I don't know if anybody from the public have any questions on this. That being said, I would like to make a motion to adopt local law J as written.
Do we have anybody who's interested?
I actually will be making those appointments during the mayor's session, part of this meeting, yes. I have
Why
3.
are you smiling?
It
I'm
might be-
sorry, was there a second? Trustee Frankel. Okay, for the record, I'm going to just briefly
I'm not
read the
volunteering you.
resolution. The Board of
However,
Trustees has determined it is in the best interest of the village to adopt local law J 2022, amending chapter 143 Landmark Preservation Commission by amending the provisions regarding membership and appointment of members. The board has determined that that it is the lead agency for the purposes of SECRA, and has further determined that the within local law is a type 2 action requiring no further action under SECRA. Okay, by show of hands, all in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the board is unanimous. Okay,
Next local law is local law K, where we're going to amend our definition of holidays. This ensures that our village list will always follow the federal holiday list. So if and when the federal government adds or possibly subtracts any holidays, we don't have to change our local law ever again. So this is kind of just a housekeeping. This is our second public hearing on this. So I will make a motion to pass local law K definition of a holiday. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Trustee Janine seconds, and again, I will briefly read for the record. Resolution enacting local law 10. The board has determined that it is in the best interest of the village to adopt local law K, amending chapters 144 and 227 entitled Definition of a Holiday. The board has determined that it is the lead agency for the purposes of SECRA, and that this is a type 2 action requiring no further action. The board therefore enacts local law 10. And by show of hands, all in favor?
Aye.
Let the record show the board is unanimous.
So next,
One more.
next and final public hearing is local law L, which we've kind of discussed in the past, but this is our first formal hearing on it. It is to amend our peddling, solicitation, and commercial circulation law to strengthen it due to numerous complaints I've received from residents about door-to-door salespeople, some being rather aggressive and some being rather deceitful in some of their sales practices. In this day and age, with all the fear of crime and whatnot, people just don't want solicitors knocking on their door. And even though they do have certain rights, under which amendment, Jeff?
First Amendment.
Thank you. There's still some restrictions we can do. Like an example, I have very clearly on my front door the do not solicit sticker that the village provides residents. Recently, I had 2 different solicitors knock on the door trying to sell me something.
Yeah.
When I said, did you see the sticker? And then they go, oh. So I think this law, and there's a lot of reading in it, so if everyone wants to have a chance to read it, and we can rehash anything next month. I think this helps strengthen the law to ensure that people soliciting in our village register properly and that there's, I guess, penalties if they don't abide by our rules.
And what would the penalties be?
That's a good question. I don't get that.
Like, what's our enforcement ability?
The enforcement ability, as drafted, it will be the same as under Article 2, I think, of the code, which can impose a fine of up to $5,000.
But so they come to my house and who do I call to have them fined?
You can contact Village Hall and they would have code enforcement go out. If code enforcement isn't able to observe it and the resident is willing to swear out an affidavit, then it can be brought to village court.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I think
Oh, so it is our village court.
Village court.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Village court.
So this
Very
being
good.
the first public hearing, we'll have a second one on this. I don't know if anybody has any questions on this, if you read it or not, but I'm willing to take any questions from the board, other than Mr. Genesis. Anybody in the audience have any questions on this? Seeing none, I will make a motion to, I guess I adjourn this, Ronnie, to next month? Is that the way it works? So I would like to make that motion, if I can get a second.
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Lewandowski.
All in favor? By show of hands.
Aye.
Mr. Janice?
Just the one thing in there
Oh.
regarding licensing.
Yes.
Like how do we get the word out that you need a license to do this in the village?
You know, that's the problem. You know, the organizations that follow our rules, that, you know, that are compliant, always call me before they go out, and they send me a letter, they tell me who's coming, you know, they give me all the information of the people who are soliciting and the hours, and then you have everybody else, you know, and it's difficult. So that would be, by issuing them a summons, you would hope that they would be compliant the next time they want to do a campaign in the village.
So there are some people who do, in essence, register with us already.
Mm.
I won't name the names, but there are some good people who do what they need to do and give us the names. I think they give us license plate numbers of the vehicles, et cetera. This
Yeah.
just strengthens
the
it.
addresses
So
and
would it be
solicitors.
okay if we saw someone or someone came to our door and we said, look, you're not allowed to
You have a
solicit.
license.
You have to get a license from the village, so before, if you leave now, you won't get a $5,000 fine, but you need to register. And then if they go to the next door neighbor and don't listen to that, then at that point, then,
Yes. So we all said aye. We're waiting for your aye.
Okay, so the hearing is adjourned to September 12th. And a
I'll make-
motion to go out of public hearing.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, second. Trustee Frankel, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Public comment. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? That being said, no, let's move to the next part of our public meeting, the approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read them? I have. I will make the motion to approve the minutes of the Monday, July 11th Board of Trustees meeting. Do I have a second?
Oh, second.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay,
Collins.
say all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Claims.
Other than Max, who's going to recuse himself from the art of landscaping,
Not on the
Oh, so then we don't have to,
Doesn't have to recuse himself.
I robotically do it every month just in case. So I have reviewed all the disbursements with Suzanne. I think everything is orderly and in place. And yes, it cost us $4,237 to fix the sweeper, but it was a necessary repair to the hydraulics, correct, Rich? So other than that, does anybody have any questions on the disbursements? That being said, I would like to make a motion to approve them. Do I have a second? The faster someone seconds, the faster we get out of here. Gary Lewandowski, all in favor?
All right.
Excellent.
ARC report.
ARC report, July 19th report, we had 3 returning cases and 3 new cases. 51 Pinewood Road, new dwelling, I think that was the 3rd time they came to us, and they responded to all comments addressed. 112 Ready Road, addition over garage, we had some specific comments for them to address, so I'm asking that approved with those conditions. 289 Crabapple, a new portico, walkway, driveway modifications. Some adjustments to the detailing of the portico were asked for, so it was approved with those conditions being met. New applications, 85 Drake, the 1-story addition and renovate patio. A nice project, we had a facelift on it, we had a couple minor comments on that and approved with those conditions. 10 Brookside Drive, basically reconstructing a house and adding to it, a rear addition. We had a number of issues with roof lines and massing and detailing, and we asked them to come back on the next meeting. 81 Boulder Drive, new residence, some minor comments on that, and so approved with those conditions.
Excellent. Thank you, Peter. Anybody from the board have any questions? I'm going to say, does anyone from the public have any questions?
Yes. John Marino, 86 Drake Lane. On 85 Drake, after reviewing the drawings as a layperson, I think that the roof line stays at the same height. I just wanted to confirm that with you.
I don't have drawings, the same height as the existing?
Yes.
I don't have that.
Okay, so you be sure about that then?
I'd have to go, we're given new drawings on a new house, so I'd have
No,
to
this
see.
is not.
It complies with zoning. It complies with zoning. That's what we look at. We don't look at it matches an original house.
Okay. Is this existing roofing, it stays the same?
Yeah, I think this is a new features here.
Yeah, that I live across the
But
street.
the main roof is not changed.
Is not changed.
Not changed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, Dr. Marino?
That's it, thank you.
Excellent.
No pickleball this month?
There's room back there.
Maybe you can talk to them. You can work a deal out. Come on, John, you can work it
It's
out.
on an acre.
Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the architectural review report?
Trustee
Trustee,
Franco, and do we have a second?
I'll second it.
And the mayor second. All in favor?
Aye, except for Trustee Lewandowski.
Abstaining by Gary Lewandowski.
Perfect.
Gee, okay, thank you.
Village engineer, Steve,
Mr. Engineer.
welcome back to the meetings. It's good to see you.
You still work for us?
We had a very lengthy meeting with Bryce today, so yes.
Yes, it appears that our new contractor is moving along quite quickly.
Nice.
And I think Bryce mentioned there were over 8 guys, there was a lot working today versus the standard 2 that we've had in the past.
So they started today working on replacing the Belgian blocks.
Yep, and I believe there's a whole new section of block installed as well, so they've removed and installed now.
Excellent.
And we had a crew on Fernwood too, ripping out gutters over there.
Working out gutters, yes.
This is who?
This
Who's
is
this?
McGowan.
I don't know, we did a nice walkthrough this morning with their representative. I think I expressed to them our expectations, and I think they will meet and exceed our expectations. So I'm looking forward to working with them. I expressed the need to work around the Rolling Wood Block Party. So Max, they're going to either do it after or get it all done before. So hopefully that'll all work out for what's going on by you. And I'm excited about that. Anything else, Steve? You can tell us about the survey on Middle Neck Road.
They're supposed to basically have this completed by the first week in August, well, this week. So I'll touch base with Fowler tomorrow and find out what the status is.
When did they actually do this site?
They were
field work?
supposed to go out and do the actual field work this week,
Okay.
yes,
So after we repaint.
after you paint. So we should have an updated survey with
Great.
those new lines on there.
I saw a couple of survey marks recently.
They started, they had done an initial layout.
Yep.
And then they were supposed to come this week to do the completion.
Okay, so they've started, which is great.
Just to add that, we received an email from Nassau
Yes.
County,
Yes.
about the ponding repair. And they gave us a budget of, what, $45,000
Yes.
to do the repair work? And the person to submit the repair bill to.
That came from Arnold, right?
Yeah, again, Arnold.
So I assume we have to go out to bid for that?
$45,000 now.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So
It's
to-
over, it's over.
capital is 60. No.
33. I think you do, I'll double check.
All right, I'm sorry.
35.
Okay, well, if we do need to, do I need to make a resolution then to go out to bid if we need to go out
That's
to
good,
bid?
if you need it, we have it, absolutely.
All right, I will make a resolution for us to go out to bid. Oh, sorry, Steve,
That
question.
wasn't what they originally had told us, though. They were supposed to.
They were going to do it.
repairs.
Right.
But I mean, regardless, it doesn't matter to us either way.
I believe that if we wait for them to do the repairs,
We'll keep waiting.
we'll all be pretty old and no longer
Okay.
here. So I think if we do it, we can control it, you can keep an eye on it, we'll get it done professionally and to our specs so that it'll get done the right way. And it'll get done a lot faster since we've been waiting
Okay.
2+ years.
Yeah.
We are getting reimbursed for the survey?
Yes.
We are getting reimbursed for the survey and we'll be getting reimbursed up to X amount of dollars to do the ponding
Oh, great.
remediation.
All right,
So
so
yes.
that's good.
So-
And there's scope defined for that work?
For the ponding? No, we don't have any scope because they were gonna take care of it.
Right,
So we have to come
Okay,
up with
design.
that, yeah.
well, I'm just saying if we're going to bid, then we're gonna need
Right.
to do a little more work. Okay.
I understand.
Would it be possible to get our act together quick enough for McGowan to do it as an add-on to the contract?
You still gotta go to bid though. right?
Yeah, I think it still has to be separate
Okay.
from.
I just thought it might be more economical, since they're getting,
It would.
we got a rate on a much
It
bigger
would be.
project.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Still has to be bid, it's, the cutoff is 35,000.
35.
Right.
Okay. All right, so we have a resolution to
Well,
put a bid out
4,000, okay.
for the ponding repair on Middle Neck Road. That was offered by the mayor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? And,
Thank you, Steve. Do you have anything else?
I have one more
Wait,
thing.
Steve got that look, yeah.
with respect to Country Club and that
Yeah.
depression or settlement that we're getting next to that patch.
I just saw that today, yes.
Yes. What do we want to do with that with respect to American Paving?
How about we take that offline
Sure.
and we'll do that
yeah,
executive session
I
or just a
wanted to just-
conversation?
I suggest executive session.
yes,
do that in
because
executive
it's, yeah,
session.
well,
Involves a legal.
because there's potential lawsuit. Okay, that was my
Wait,
last
I
thing.
just had one question. Can you remind me what roads are currently being repaired?
So we have Greenway, we have Fernwood, and Knollwood.
No, okay.
Oh, yeah, I got a resident call today and wants to know if we're doing all of Knollwood, including like number 1.
Yes, I
That's
talked to
what, oh, you talked to the current, okay, good.
And also
I wasn't
for,
sure if you were still in the office.
Gary, for the record, we're also fixing Ridge Drive by Joanne's,
Right, right,
where that
by the.
awful hole,
Yeah, the war,
the reoccurring
the
hole
war zone,
is.
Right?
Yeah.
That's good.
bombs hit it.
All right,
I purposely avoid that intersection.
thank you, Mitchell.
Very
Which-
wise.
So Greenway, the whole
the whole Greenway.
Yes.
Across? No.
Everything from Greenway, from the traffic out all the way to goes out
Yeah,
to
where we have those.
Not where the walkway
Okay,
is, because that was done last year.
Yeah, wherever, we'll continue where we left off last year.
All right. Rich, let's have your Public Works Superintendent report, please.
Well, as you guys
Neck
know,
Road.
we finished Middle Neck Road. It
Thank you.
actually came in cheaper than what we
Yes.
actually got.
So Rich saved us some money because instead of doing it over 2 nights, the contractor decided to go over 1 night, and Rich said back to them, great. In your proposal, you're charging us for 2 nights of traffic control. You can't charge us for the second night. So how much are we recouping?
2,500.
Thank you, Rich, very much for that. That is excellent savings. Thank you for staying up all night dealing with the residents and dealing with the up to 5 a.m. work that you were there for. So that's greatly appreciated.
And thank you for dealing with the irate residents who came out at 2 a.m. in his bedroom.
He was on when I was a little, well, you saw, he was on when I was a little,
All right, thank you. And by the way, Mitchell documented the whole project photographically. We took
I
that
missed the
photo.
first couple of hours, don't say whole. but-
Well, I was impressed.
Um,
I was
we-
impressed that you were even like conscious, so.
We've got a couple of more signs are on their way in, so you'll put them up. You put up, for the record, you put up the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs. Thank you. And the last, they removed the no parking signs today, and then the other arrow towards the southern part will get put in as soon as Rich has a clear pathway to bring the payloader to punch it in.
They're doing some work, in that apartment, I think it's something with water or gas, I don't know what they're doing over there, but they had a little backhoe and everything over there, so.
Yeah, let's just hope they don't rip up my beautiful street.
Yeah, I think it's.
Shouldn't we know what they do?
Usually in the parking
You
lot.
know what they're doing, Peter?
What's that?
Like, you know what they're doing over there?
At the apartment building.
Apartment complex.
I know, and
It was one of the manhole covers in
Oh, it might be utility
west
work.
of the, it was Con Ed that saw the cones over there. 'Cause that was when I texted you last night.
PSCG.
Blocking it off.
If it's Con Ed,
If it's
we're in big
Con Ed, we're in
trouble.
big trouble.
Yeah.
It was on the property, west of the sidewalk.
Do we want to install signs that say park within the lines? Because I saw the email this morning.
I'm not putting signs up everywhere, but yes, people need to learn about why we striped it. Maybe we can help.
Well, it is
educate
pretty
them.
obvious.
I know.
Gave them 22 feet per parking.
I know, we gave them extra long ones.
Pretty generous.
We'll work on that. There are people, today there were a lot of cars parked there.
Yeah,
There were very few cars parked on Ridge, but a lot of cars parked on Middle Neck. I spoke to both business owners, and thank you for whoever put the signs on everybody's cars on Ridge Drive with the little flyer that says, hey, now you can park over there. So that was a great idea from Ronnie. Rich, thank you for redoing the island at Middle Neck and Port Boulevard, because that needed work, and you guys have done a great job watering it to get it flowing. And that's all I have for Rich, unless anyone else has any questions for him.
can I add a thank you to Rich?
Oh, Rich saved the day today. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
this afternoon, so I did a late inspection, almost 5 o'clock on one that I missed earlier on Sunnyvale. So I went over there, and there's a tree across the middle of the road. So I texted Rich, I called Rich.
Giant tree.
Really? That's
It's big, yeah, this big. All the neighbors are out, somebody's driveway's blocked and so forth, so I texted Rich, called him, came right over, riding up on the payloader, like, to save the day.
And his
they were very
chainsaws.
with his chainsaw, one man show, I said, can I help you? He goes, I got it, got the chainsaw, he's working the payloader.
He loves
and
it.
cleared the road. So,
Thank you, Rich.
I'm surprised it came down though.
it was very interesting, it was just an old,
Sweet.
thing, black cherry, and through the middle of it was a maple that created a split in the tree and caused it eventually.
What
to
time
split.
is this? Because I drove down Sunnyvale like right before 5 o'clock.
It must have just happened.
You just
And
missed
I
it.
had coincidentally happened to go
Maybe-
there, otherwise they would have had to wait.
Maybe your
till the
car
morning.
was a thing that.
Maybe.
Yes.
That when, as you drove by.
It's the Janice effect.
Janice.
Okay, great. All right, I have nothing new to report, other than we've been continuing to work on our municipal templates to get our building software ready for upload.
Excellent. And our scanning has come in under original
We said
estimate,
that
correct?
last-
Okay, I just looked at the bill
Yeah.
now. Okay.
That's the budget.
Gary, any question?
No, we can talk.
Okay. Attorney's report, Mr. Belinkoff.
Yes, I'll begin with the Board of Zoning Appeals. They've been quite busy. The first application that they dealt with was actually over 2 different months, involved 52 Sycamore Road. And what had really happened here is this was the subject of a prior grant that involved a request pertaining to the driveway and the flare for the driveway at the, where it met the road. And the board had previously granted variance relief allowing for the driveway to be roughly 21 feet wide with an 18-inch flare. And that also authorized coverage by the pavement in the yard to be roughly 44%. What then happened is that in June of this year, the applicant made a new application asking to increase both of the variances that were previously granted by the board, and also asking for an additional variance which would have maintained the driveway within the required side yard setback. During the first hearing, the board expressed concern as to why the applicant would need to modify what was previously granted, and was kind of greatly concerned about why the applicant would come back, given that the board had spent so much time in the first go-round. But they then continued it to allow the applicant time to come back and bring additional information if the applicant wished. At the July meeting, the applicant did not appear, and the board denied the new request, leaving the applicant with the variances previously granted. There was an application with respect to 7 Crabtree, and essentially what had happened is that they had constructed a patio that went into the required side yard setback. And they were seeking to have the side yard setback reduced to 4 feet, but where 8 feet is required. What they argued essentially is that it was a contractor error, that somebody had misread the plans. The board expressed concern about that, and also expressed concern as to why the patio could just not be maintained at the right appropriate size. And in the end, the board reserved decision, which allows the applicant the chance to rethink the approach. There was also an application, a fairly simple application involving a proposed sports court on 76 Oak Tree Lane. The applicant explained that they were putting it in a location which would invade the side yard setback by about 1 foot. They were asking for a 5-foot rear and side yard setback where 6 is required. But they explained that topographically this was the place that it best fit on the property. They explained it would not be visible, that there would be no lighting, and that they would maintain it with screening. The board thought that that was appropriate and did grant on the conditions that they do that there be no lighting, which the code doesn't allow anyway, and that there be appropriate screening. There was an application on 31 Knollwood, which essentially involved the maintenance of a patio, a barbecue, and a shed, which are already existing. The homeowner indicated that it's his plan to, in fact, be selling. He intends to be moving. He's, quite frankly, trying to legalize the items that are on the property. After he explained the application, the board felt that with respect to everything except the shed, that those items really were in keeping with what one would receive a variance for. Their existence doesn't impose a detriment to the surrounding community. However, the shed is at a 0-foot setback from the lot line, and the required minimum is 8 and 10 feet. So the board did not grant that portion, but what they did was to include a direction that the shed is to be removed at the sooner of either when the gentleman moves and sells the property, or by December 31st of 2023. And at Mr. Elbinski's suggestion, the board also included a direction that there'll be a note in the property file that would be an open violation, that if this isn't done in that time, that whoever sees that property file will see that if the shed is still there, there's a violation.
Good, that's reasonable, because
Yes.
there are other variances that were not granted for similar situations, so happy to see zoning board is.
Would it be time to check that out? Because he's already gone and the new people already moved in. They moved in last week. We saw the moving truck. So we got a letter about it in the mail too. They're about 3 hours away.
So, Mr. Obinsky, if you'd be so kind as to
Okay.
see. The next application involved, 155 Walnut. And there, the applicant was intending to include an outdoor roof structure and a storage room, which would increase the overall coverage of the lot. And they were also seeking to have a patio that will be set back 6 feet from the property line where 10 feet is required. There was discussion with the architect, Mr. Butt, who was present on behalf of the applicant. And in looking at the proposal, it would provide a great deal of benefit to the homeowner in terms of the use that they would get out of the structures proposed. But the board was concerned about the impact of having the latter proposal is close to the lot line as being 6 feet. And after discussion with the board, determined to be appropriate was to grant a lesser variance as far as the setback incursion. And they felt that that variance would be the minimum that the applicant would need to really achieve the benefit they sought. The applicant was in agreement with that as well, and the board granted it with that condition. The final application was really for a fairly de minimis, a minor request. The applicant was proposing to include a one-story addition where the rear edge setback is 22 feet 8 inches and the required minimum is 25 feet. But essentially what they were proposing to do is to include the addition would fit within 2 existing portions of the home that are already at least at that amount of distance, in fact, so that nobody will see this. It's in the backyard. It's in between 2 existing portions of the structure. Anybody going by won't see it, and it's not going to affect anything. It's a fairly small increase in the size of the home for a fairly helpful benefit to the homeowner. So the board granted that. And then, unless there are questions on ZBA, do a further report of recent news regarding the Extonet litigation.
Yes.
Special counsel, Mr. Ross, has advised and has forwarded a decision from the federal court. And we're pleased to announce that Extonet's lawsuit against the village, following the village's denial of its application to install wireless infrastructure, has been dismissed. Special counsel Ed Ross, he's currently away. So what I would suggest is upon his return, he could come in and discuss next steps. And for now, I would leave it at that because that would be his special area.
Is that just us or the other villages?
It's
that are
just
involved?
ours.
Just us. Huh?
I will forward to everybody the decision. It's interesting. I'm not a lawyer, but it's rather interesting reasoning of why the judge found in our favor, and it's an interesting read.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes, and then you'll see on new business, we have something.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the good news. Okay.
All right, so mayor's report. I got a couple of things. One, I'd like to appoint the Landmark Commission members. I've got Rhoda Becker, who will be the chair. Mitchell Schwartz is number 2, and number 3 is Barbara Goldman, Dr. Goldman's wife. So would someone like to second those appointments?
I thought you said you needed an architect. It doesn't matter.
No, it's if we need one.
Oh,
We're unless you're volunteering to be on it.
no, I'm already a landmarks commissioner.
I know. So it's if we need it, but we don't have to. So someone like to make a second my motion?
I'll second it.
Excellent. All in favor?
And I was going to nominate you when you're ready.
Rhoda's running this.
The last time I nominated you.
So I'd like to thank Inspector Vegas for being at our board meeting last month. The good news for him and bad news for us is he retired. He retired last week. So we're waiting to see who is going to be appointed as the commander of the 6. Is the commander, is that the proper title? So we will, hopefully we will find out who that is and we will meet with his replacement.
Wait, who retired? I'm sorry.
Vegas, who was here and spoke to us last
The
month.
6th precinct guy?
Yeah, he
The
retired.
head guy?
Yeah, he retired last week.
Really?
Out of the blue. I just saw it on Facebook and I'm like, what?
Well, he left his job. That doesn't mean he's not gonna work.
I think he retired from
He
the
retired from
police
the police.
department.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Okay,
No, he retired from the NCPD.
gotcha.
Yes. So he'll be somewhere, but he won't be here.
He can work.
And he was a
Although
great,
he's limited on.
he was a great resource for the village. So hopefully his next replacement will be just as good. I signed on to a bipartisan letter from various elected officials here on the North Shore and Town of North Hempstead to Long Island Railroad President requesting modifications to the draft Port Washington branch timetable. Because those people like Mary Jo who are on the train, I'm sure are not happy with the
Don't
proposed
assume
schedule.
that. I took offense to the letter that was written and assuming that I would sign that. I am more thrilled to be able to go into a
Yeah,
news station
really.
at
Grand
Madison, which is right across from my
Good.
office, and not have to go through the hole that they called Penn Station for the past 25 years.
That's good. So I
So
actually
you're
have,
making a big assumption
so I have
that
one
everybody
person.
So
knows.
it's worth the extra 4 minutes or whatever people are complaining about?
It is.
Well, no, we want both.
In
We want the
spades.
schedule to remain the same and east side access.
correct.
It's
want
like,
both.
it's like 4 minutes, people like.
It's making a big deal. Don't
I
get
know,
me
I
started.
have
You
east
don't
side
want to get me
access.
started.
Take the train from Roslyn sometime.
And what's her
You'll,
name?
uh,
Anna Kaplan,
like
right?
3
Her one
hours.
thing that she's making her crusade, and I resented her, assuming everybody was in that camp. So how's that?
Okay.
But not everybody is.
I-
And don't
I've
assume
received-
that I am, and I resent when she did that. So and I
I'm
let her know
sorry.
that.
Okay,
Good.
great. Listen, I haven't had a single person tell me, any residents I've spoken to has told me it's in their favor. So you're the first. So good.
Their favorite. I just
I'm
feel
upset.
that there's so many other things that, look, the railroad's under a lot of stress, right? There's less people going to work, whatever. This has been working on this for 10 years. And, look, I've been commuting for 26
10
years,
years?
okay?
They've been working.
Oh, yeah. No, but,
Since I took the train
No, but
22 years ago.
I don't know. I just,
All right.
so.
I attended the Nassau County Shared Services meeting last week at Nassau County Courthouse. It was a good meeting. There's always ample opportunities for the villages to save some money. And if anyone's interested, I can forward to them the report. What else on my list here? Aha. I don't know if anyone's had a chance to read this new suggested policy that Jeff worked on regarding communications submitted to the village. I personally and other people working in the village have received the occasional communication from residents who are, what's the proper word I'm using, Ron?
Inappropriate.
Inappropriate emails towards us with requests for information, which are legitimate requests for information, but it's asked and statements in it are very inappropriate. So we wanted to have a policy in place on how to deal with that said communication, because people should have a right to ask for things. On the other hand, the way they ask for it is kind of offensive. So if anyone wants a chance to, we can either adopt it this month or we can wait till next month. I think was this in our packet last month, Ronnie?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone had a chance to read it. It's just a policy. I think it makes sense. It just gives us some guidelines on how we respond or not respond to certain emails from certain people. That's all. So if nobody objects to anything the way it's written, I would like to make a motion to adopt the policy regarding communications submitted to the village.
Trustee
Second from
Frankel,
Frankel. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All in favor.
Excellent. Any reports from the trustees?
Just a quick update. I was meeting, and Randall knows.
Yes, I apologize. I'll get back to you.
Met with, let me get the, right. Sarah Schaefer Brown, who works for Long Island Sound Study in the Sustainable and Resilient Communities Extension for Nassau County. So she's working with a lot of the local municipalities on programs to help Long Island Sound, advancing sustainability and resiliency. So I would like to invite her to a board meeting. She could also bring along one or two other people who are involved in that effort alongside her to do a presentation to the board. A lot of it has to do with water, obviously, and how we deal with stormwater, how we deal with sewage, how we deal with even how we deal with the groundwater, not the groundwater, but the
Stormwater.
no, our drinking water.
Okay.
And so anyway, I wanted to let everyone know, because if you had some thoughts to kind of make sure we caught it in the presentation, just let me know. Come to me, whatever your thoughts are.
I think probably, to keep it as efficient as possible, I think Sarah alone is fine for the presentation. I don't want to make this a whole.
Yeah, there might be follow-ups with, I think you and I talked about it a year ago, quite frankly, on the new septic systems.
Yes,
So there's someone who could help us on that too.
that would be great. So yeah, let's have her at the next appropriate board meeting where we have a light agenda, which could be next month or not next month, depending on how many public hearings we
All
have.
right.
So we'll work with her accordingly.
Mr. Mayor, I think
Yes, sir.
there's a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ro, I didn't look up.
A question on the proposal to put, I think it's 176 units where the sand mining operation is. Who is following that for the village? There's a Tudor VAs, I think it's a 7-story apartment building
Mhm.
starting at $3,500 for 1-bedroom unit.
Okay.
And the concern is the water usage. We have had water caps before. If you pull fresh water out from around the peninsula there, you end up with salt water intrusion. Water goes out and salt water goes in. And I was wondering if there's somebody representing the village on these hearings, because we have water concern and traffic.
So there was a public information session a year ago. I was on the call. I represented some of the village's concerns of traffic and infrastructure during that meeting, but I have not heard of any other public hearings since.
Well, they just delivered the phase 1 of the environmental, I think, Friday.
Always in the sequel
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
They've been doing a media blitz every week. There's a
Oh, I know.
That's Southern Properties. They
Due to the fact
have a lot of money behind them.
I know for Washington, they're now limiting us in certain hours to use your sprinklers.
It's the same in Roslyn as
And
well.
it's a few minutes, it's
Mhm.
not every other. It's like 4 minutes for each section.
Mhm.
And one of the times I called Ronnie, the village area was from 9 to 11 at night, which would impact on the village meetings.
I'm sorry, I thought Jeff Jeff wanted me to see that. Jeff, you want to talk old business about Port Washington Water District, or is that a Ronnie issue?
Sure, I can discuss that.
Okay.
The board will recall that Port Washington Water District had appeared and discussed with the board their plans to make some changes to their facility, the Stonytown facility. And in conjunction with that, one of the things they discussed is the need for sort of a staging area, the storage area that they would fence in. And what's before the board tonight is essentially a license agreement for that. I've had the chance to review it. I don't have any legal issues with it if the board was to approve it. I would suggest, though, that if the board was to approve it and authorize the mayor to sign it, it would be subject to a review by the village insurer, just to make sure that the insurance provisions included fit with what your insurer would recommend. But otherwise, assuming the board doesn't oppose to them using it as a storage area, I don't have a legal.
Which we all kind of agreed that was okay at the beginning. And Gary's going to ask, when are they going to start construction?
Yeah.
Because I don't have that answer either.
Did it pass?
I was
Did
gonna-
it
I
go
was
through
gonna
A-
ask-
Is it through ARC already?
They don't need to,
Oh, right. Yeah.
remember.
I was gonna ask, do we know what the impact will be on Stonytown and, I guess Stonytown Road during this construction?
Be like any construction project on a road.
Like, are they solely gonna be off-site, or are they gonna use Stonytown shoulder, if you will, for?
Did you ask that question when they made the proposal? So if you want, reach out to Mindy, or we can reach out to whoever else to find out.
Okay.
But we all kind of agreed to this.
Yeah, no.
So just to formalize it, I mean,
Right.
I want to make sure this gets done sooner than later. Because they needed to protect our drinking supplies. So I want this project.
Oh, are they imminent in starting the work?
No, but obviously this is the next step. I don't want to delay anything, just in case
Yeah,
one
yeah,
reason
yeah.
this delays the project. I want our drinking water as clean as possible, so I think that's good. So I'll make a motion to allow myself to sign this license agreement.
Would that be subject to review by the village insurer?
Of course, thank you, Jeff. Yes.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Excellent. Next, this is my favorite thing. Ronnie, you want to do local law N?
Oh, sure. This is introducing local law and authorizing the use of video conferencing for board meetings. If we pass this law, we would be able to have our trustees who are out of the building or out of the area to join the meeting by video conference. And it would also allow us, in the event of an emergency, to hold video meetings, like a Zoom meeting.
So what happened is the governor's emergency measure allowing us to do remote meetings has expired. And this, we need to approve the new guidelines set by the
Good idea.
state.
Yes.
So that's why,
We are open government.
that's why we'd like to have this. So it gives us kind of the rights to do what we're doing.
Yeah,
And
that's good.
for example, if a trustee, like example, Trustee Harrington was not able to be here tonight, if we have this local law in place, he can participate remotely from a public area.
Yes, so
Per-
long.
There's certain requirements
Yeah.
for his or any other person's participation remotely, and we could probably execute that. So I'd like to make a motion to hold the public hearing at the September board meeting.
I believe Mr. Blanco had a comment.
Oh, sorry, Jeff.
No, the only thing I was going to say is that one thing it does require is that as opposed to the way things are functioning now under the emergency, the board does have to have either a quorum physically present in this building or
Yes.
physically present in some other setting at which a person of the public could be. And you have to designate what that is. So you could have 5 board members in 5 different locations, as long as each of those board members would permit members of the public to be present. So if somebody was at a library, a school, that could happen.
Hotel lobby.
And we have to notice all those locations.
You would
I
have,
actually
you would
read
have
this.
to notice those locations. The exception is if somebody for a health reason
Or an
has a
emergency.
restriction in an emergency that's approved by the board, then they would not need to participate in that way. But in any event, quorum of the board has to be in a physical location that would be
Right.
accessible to the public.
All right. Well, thank you for that addition, but I'll still make the motion to have the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Trustee Frankel.
All in favor?
Aye.
No objections. Wonderful. Now, my real true favorite local law is local law N. Ms. Schatz came in.
I have nothing in writing yet.
Okay.
Because this just came up today in light of the accident decision. But we would like to introduce local law N, which would create a moratorium on small cell wireless facilities.
Because if those of us remember, we had a discussion a while back that our existing local law needed to be, I'll say modified and strengthened. And we were having that discussion with Ed Ross, but now that the decision has been found in our favor, now's really the time to do it. So Jeff will be working with Ed, and I'm hoping that we will have something on our desks in time for the public hearing at the September 12th board meeting. So
There's a moratorium, but is there something beyond just doing a moratorium that we're thinking?
no, it's a moratorium so that we can look at our
Okay,
proposed local law, and if we can't get it done by next, so, we'll have to introduce the law, we'll have to have a couple of public hearings. So, as our normal way we do our local laws here, I need a moratorium in place until we can get the local law drafted and possibly
I'm just
approved.
trying to- So it's step A and step B.
Correct, that's why I need a moratorium, because I need time to get all this stuff done. So I'll make a motion to have this public hearing at the next board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Wodecki, all in favor?
Thank you, Ms. Becker, for the history report.
I can't believe we almost had a highway through here.
Yes.
You know, you were going to have a bridge going into Westchester.
That was probably Robert
Connecting
Moses.
all Sunrise Highway.
Of course.
That was
Good old Bob,
going
Uncle
west.
Bob.
That's all.
So I would like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss a potential lawsuit and to discuss another legal issue. Everyone should leave except for Rich and Steve, but then I will kick you out after the first one, and then we'll have a second one. So, thank you,
Just wanna
everybody,
ask
for
Peter a
coming.
question.
Rich, can you
Dr. Marino.
Peter.
kill?
Oh, you see.
Do you need me for this?
Yeah.